Good Saturday afternoon. This is the Bulldog World Order, starring Magnum and Uncle Lou. Anytime.
What's going on, guys? I'd like to welcome y'all to the third edition of the Bulldog World Order. Uncle Lou, you were on yet another vacation this past week. You know, we need to be more like Uncle Lou. We need to take vacations every week. Where'd you go this time, man?
Well, I was at Hilton Head this week, and I know it seems like I'm on vacation all the time because I've been out of town since we started doing this show, basically, but that's not normally the case. We when we were in Myrtle Beach a couple of weeks ago, we don't normally take that trip every year, but the kids were starting back to school so early this year. We normally go to Hilton Head every year this time, but the kids were starting back to school so early this year, they were going to be in school for our Hilton Head trip, so we decided to make an extra trip up to Myrtle Beach a couple of weeks ago before they started back to school, and then our regular Hilton Head trip was this week. So, but I'm back home now. No more vacations planned for a while. So, back here at Casa de Lou, back to normal here, and ready to rock and roll. Football right around the corner.
Yes, sir, right around the corner. And you had an interesting encounter. I know we talked a few times this past week. You had an interesting encounter with some guy who was apparently from Ohio, and it was a Notre Dame fan, and you got into a little argument. Explain that to us. What happened?
Now, of course, anytime Uncle Lou goes on vacation, especially during the summer to the beach or the pool or whatever, I have my Georgia Bulldog towel, my Georgia Bulldog cooler I'll take down to the pool with me, and I'll usually wear, some type of Georgia T-shirt or hat or something like that. So it's pretty obvious where Uncle Lou stands as far as when people see me. They know what I'm about. So anyway, I was laying out in the lounge chair by the pool a few days ago, and got to talking to this guy. He was asking me where I was from and different things like that, and he saw the cooler, and he's like, "Oh, you college football fan?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, I'm from Ohio." Well, as soon as he said that, I pretty much knew where this conversation was headed, but since Uncle Lou's a nice guy, and I don't mind educating people, I went ahead and decided to have a conversation with him. So he proceeded to tell me he's from Ohio, starts asking me about Ohio State. And then he tells me Ohio State is going undefeated this year, making the playoff, and winning the national title. Now, he was drinking at the pool, but I got the feeling that he would have said that even if he was sober. And now, everybody knows that's not going to happen. Now, there is a possibility, and we're going to get into our conference predictions as far as who's going to win each conference a little later on. In forever. So to think that that's going to change this year is a little bit ridiculous to me. But then to make matters even worse, he tells me he's not even an Ohio State fan. He's a Notre Dame fan. So I'm sitting at the pool with a guy from Ohio who thinks Ohio State's going to win it all, and then he's a Notre Dame fan on top of that. So this guy obviously just can't get out of his own way. Now, this was a day or two before all that news broke about, Notre Dame having to suspend all these players for academic fraud. So I didn't get a chance to get into that with him. But I went ahead and told him that there's no chance Notre Dame's even making the 14 playoff period. But anyway, he just got me so irritated and agitated. He's one of these people that no matter what facts you try to give him, he has something. Well, but this year. Or but this time, or but next time when we play, or but now since Braxton Miller's been there for 8 years now, well, none of that matters, And I just, anyway, luckily the place that I stay in Hilton Head has 3 different pools, so I just made up some sort of excuse, packed my stuff up, and went and moved to the other pool because, I can't have stuff like that ruining my vacation.
Yeah, because I remember I sent you a text, and as soon as you told me that he was from Ohio and he was a Notre Dame fan, I was like, yeah, go ahead and slap him for me.
Yeah. Now, You know, and I just did cross my mind, and now verbally, I did abuse him verbally, but physically, I went ahead and let him off the hook there.
Yeah, and I know you talked about Notre Dame and what happened with them. I think it was actually a couple days ago. The breaking news about those 4 guys being suspended for academic fraud, but apparently it involved more than those 4 players, and I think it involved like a total of 22 players. Most of them that were playing on the team going back to 2012. Now, from what I hear, Notre Dame is actually willing to vacate like all those wins if investigation is performed and something is found. So their BCS title appearance here, that could possibly never have happened for them. I mean, that's a real possibility.
They'd probably do a flip if they were allowed to vacate that game against Alabama. I'm sure they'd have no problem with that. They basically vacated it before they even played it. They didn't even show up for that game.
Yeah, you got a point. But the thing is, like, if it goes back to 2012, I'm not sure if it even goes back before that, but let's just say if it goes back to 2012, every game that these guys supposedly played in, now they talk about like vacating like every game these guys played in. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. The investigation's not even been performed yet, but I know they mentioned in the past that they're one of those schools that's not willing to sacrifice like academics for the good of the sports program, football program. Well, this has turned out to be false because it just freaking happened. I just think it's just pretty pathetic. It seems like every year we hear something about this now, and it's just.
Well, we've talked a little bit before. Notre Dame, unless you're a Notre Dame fan, Notre Dame is not relevant to modern day college football. I was thinking about this earlier today on the ride home from Hilton Head because I knew we were going to talk some about this today. But think about if you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you're a high school football stud, you've got, offers from all over, you're a 4-star, 5-star kid. Is Notre Dame even on your radar? I mean, the last time Notre Dame was really relevant in college football, these kids weren't even born. I mean, you got to go back to really the early 90s to when Notre Dame was even relevant. They've had a decent year here and there, but then they show up in the bowl game and just get rolled. I think it was LSU humiliated them one year. And then, of course, the game to Alabama, from a couple of years ago, everybody remembers that. I mean, they didn't even have any business being on the same field with Alabama. So they've had one or two good years, but as far as being relevant in modern college football, they're just not. And these kids today, these recruits today, they don't care about the good old days. I mean, they haven't even seen the movie Rudy, much less lived through Rudy. So it's time for Notre Dame to make up its mind. Do they want to be a football team or do they want to be, an academic institution, which is fine if that's what they want to be. But they screwed themselves. They've had 2 or 3 really good opportunities in the past 20 years to join a conference, and they keep choosing not to do it. And I don't care what anybody says, that's holding them back more now than ever with the Big Five and the playoff and the way things are shaping up in college football for today and for the future. If you're not in a conference, it's a hindrance. And Notre Dame thinking that it's better than the ACC, better than the Big Ten, better than the SEC, or anything like that, it's costing them. And then, of course, the academic fraud. I mean, we saw the same thing last year with their quarterback, Everett Golston, or whatever his name is, had to sit out all last year because he couldn't get on the do-right plan. Now they have him back, but they're getting ready to lose a bunch more guys now. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on up there. I guess we'll have to take the wait-and-see approach, how it all shakes out. But, what an embarrassment.
Well, I mean, you were just talking about them not joining a conference. I know, in basketball, they're like part of the ACC, and then in like football, they're they're not even part of the how can a school be part of like a conference in basketball but have nothing to do with it in football? I don't get that. Do you understand?
I don't know the rules and regulations that the NCAA sets up. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if a team is going to, to me, a team is either in a conference or they're not. You know, I don't understand this. Well, we'll join this conference for basketball, but then we're going to be independent for football, but we'll still play 5 teams a year from the ACC. And, I mean, just join the ACC if that's what you want to do. I mean, join the ACC. I'm sure they'd love to have you. You know, nobody's too sorry for the ACC. They'll take anybody. So join the ACC if that's what you want to do. But this crap about, well, we want to play this schedule in basketball and be independent, but we'll play these 5 schools these years, and you know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. They had 2 opportunities to join the Big Ten going all the way back to the early 90s, and then again 10 or 15 years ago they turned it down. They had a chance to join the ACC when all this expansion crap was going on a couple of years ago, or last year, I guess, or yeah, a couple of years ago, and they turned that down. So I don't know what they're doing, but you know, the way college football is set up now, you know, it's an in or an out deal. You know, you either need to be in with the big boys or you need to be out, and Notre Dame needs to make up its mind. It's not 1975. So you know, they need to do something.
I agree with that. And of course, we've talked about it before. We actually put them on our schedule for 2017 and 2019. And let's say something comes of this investigation and they lose scholarships. You know, that's going to hurt them. So by the time we play them, they may not even be as good as they are now. I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and he went ahead and he just said straight up, well, congratulations on the win in 2017. In a way, he's got a point, because if they're going to have scholarship reductions, that's going to affect their recruiting tremendously, dude, like a lot.
Oh, yeah. And that's why you see them coming out now saying, oh, we're gonna vacate these wins, and we're gonna suspend these 4 guys and blah, blah, blah. Because the way these things work is, first, an investigation will be done by the school, and that's what's going on now. Notre Dame will do its own investigation, and then they will self-impose sanctions on themselves, vacated wins, suspending these players, blah, blah, blah. Well, if the NCAA looks at that and says, well, that's not enough, that's when they'll come in and say, okay, we see what you did here, and we see that you vacated these wins, you suspended these players, but we don't feel that's enough, so we're going to take away, you know, a total of 10 scholarships over the next 3 years, or take you off the TV, or, you know, a bowl ban, or what, you know, whatever punishment they decide to do. So we'll see what the final punishment ends up being for Notre Dame, and then we'll see if the NCAA gets involved, and if they do, what sorts of ramifications come from that. But I mean, it's never good news for these kinds of things to be happening, and you know, Lord knows Georgia's had its own share of problems with suspensions and things like that. So, you know, I definitely don't feel sorry for any school that has to go through it. But it's never a good situation to be in. I mean, here we are a couple of weeks from the start of the season, and instead of talking about, you know, who's on your schedule or, you know, what kind of season Notre Dame might be having, we're talking about who's getting suspended, who's not, who cheated, who didn't, and more importantly, who knew about it. You know, if they find out that this is, you know, that there's somebody within the athletic department that was facilitating, you know, hooking these players up with these tutors that were writing the papers, and that's when you could really see the NCAA come down hard. If it's just an isolated incident where these 4 students on their own got somebody to write these papers for them, you know, then, and Brian Kelly didn't know, the athletic director didn't know, no one in the athletic department knew this was going on, then, you know, they might get off a little more easy. But if it turns out to be some sort of, you know, systemic problem within the football, you know, department itself, then I think you're going to see some long-term punishment doled out by the NCAA. But we'll see.
Yeah, you know what, and I'm right there with you, man. I don't feel sorry for anybody it happens to, because all these guys were sitting here talking trash about us, saying we get in all this trouble, you know. And speaking of trouble, we're not the only school that's going around assaulting girlfriends. I mean, that just this past week you had Oklahoma, that Nixon character, and he sitting there assaulting his girlfriend. Apparently, like, broke some bones in her face or something like that. And there again, we've done that ourselves, but you've got people that are talking trash about us, and guess what? It happens to them.